over its body other than the face itself.
There are, in fact, 4 different types of, what we think of as Sasquatch or Bigfoot.
Very wide, pronounced nose. There was also a very ominous odor.
Phase 1 is to identify opportunities. I walked into a small clearing in less than 10-15 feet away from this enormous creature, and it scared the living hell out of me. Phase 2 is conducting investigations both of witnesses and locations. The size of the thing, it was 4 or 5 feet across the shoulders. Phase 3 is profiling research areas, what's there, how they move, feeding, things like that. About 8 feet tall, I guessed around 800 pounds. It was massive. I had no idea that anything like that existed. Phase 4 is create an intercept plan. I decided to shoot in the air to see if maybe it would scare it off. Phase 5 is the intercept and resolve the issue phase. It didn't do anything, didn't react, and then I heard a noise from my right rear, and from out behind some brush come another one, walked over by the first one. That's when I decided to do what the dog did. I took off running. Welcome to Witness of the Unknown. Hello everyone, I'm speaking with Terry today. Terry, how are you, my friend?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thanks a lot, Will. Thanks for calling.
Absolutely. Well, I'm just going to let you go ahead and tell me what happened, when it was, and kind of what you were doing beforehand that sort of led into the situation.
Sure, not a problem. Okay. Well, you want to just a little bit of a background, or just go right into the story, or?
No, you can go ahead and do a background, however you want to approach it. Yeah, however you want to approach it.
Sure. Okay, well, it's been quite a while. It was about, 1981, 82. I'll start with the first encounter. To set the backdrop, my girlfriend and I, her dad wanted to go fishing, and she was, hemming and hawing about it, but we decided to go anyway. And my dad was stationed in Fort Benning, Georgia, and that's where we lived. And so her dad wanted to go fishing down at the Chattahoochee River, which is about 5 miles from where we were living on base. And he drove, picked us up, went down to a little airport in the base there. I think it's called Lawson Field. It was back then. And right behind Lawson Field, where the main terminal is, there's right off the road that comes behind the terminal. It's pretty rural too. There's a little side dirt road that goes down about maybe 800 feet, and then opens up into a pretty wide another gravel area that's about, I would say, a football field in length, from width left to right. So if you drive down the gravel road, it opens up into a big, large area, and it's about 300 feet wide, and the road comes down right in the middle of it. So we went down there. It was about the first encounter. We went down there about 10 o'clock at night for some night catfishing, and we come down the gravel road, and we veer off to the right. We went right down to the tree line on the right-hand side, about 40 feet from the car, and we drove right up to the edge of the river, which was the Chattahoochee, and kept his headlights on, kept the car running, of course, and he gets out, and he casts out a couple of, catfish poles, catfish bait, and he sticks them, in the mud right there in the front of his car. I think the headlights were about, the front of his car was 2 feet from the edge of the water, so he could see out and just sit on the hood of the car and just fish. And while he was doing that, my girlfriend and I were sitting in the car just talking, had all the windows down. I think it was, like I said, middle of July, August. It was warm out, and we're just chatting, and out of the blue, just horrendous roar. I can only liken it in between that of a T-Rex / lion / elephant woman screaming kind of a thing. It was so unbelievably loud that as soon as this thing started roaring, I went directly into shock. I mean, I figured that out later. And so did my girlfriend and her dad, for that matter. And it was so scary. It was so loud that I could feel my bones rattling. It was unbelievable. I don't know, 150, 160 decibels if I were to guess. And that's pretty a guess, of course. And as this thing is roaring, it was about a 15, 20-second long. It was long. It was unbelievable. And as it's roaring, I'm slowly, turning to my right-hand side. I was in the passenger side, out the window, thinking that maybe it was coming from that direction. I really couldn't tell. It was so loud. But that's where the woods started, 50 feet to my right. When I say woods, it's kind of swampy. You have all the, what do you call that the vines down south. It's kudzu, I think it's called, kudzu. It's so thick you can't see in it, really.
Right.
Well, anyway, I'm looking to the right, and so is my girlfriend at the time. She's to my left. She's in the middle. I'm on the right-hand side. And as soon as I in my head, when it was turning, it felt like it was like going, like it was like in slow motion jerking. I was in shock, I guess. And as soon as this thing stopped yelling, we were looking in that direction. I hear this unbelievable, and everything is so loud, it's incredible. I hear this swishing sound, like a giant limb, just like something jumping off a diving board. That sound you get, that ring, 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 ring. But this is a giant limb from a tree that was just whipping up and down. It was unbelievably loud. And when I started hearing that sound, I knew exactly where this thing was. I knew it. It was about, I'm 50 feet from the edge of the tree line, and 2 feet in the back of the river's edge. So 50 feet to my right, where the foliage starts, about 100, maybe 50 feet to 75 feet from there upriver, there's a gigantic oak tree. And the reason why I know this is because my friends and I, we would go down there and we would, listen to our radios and, drink a little bit and just hang out at this tree. And we would climb this tree on this one limb. The limb was about 10 feet up. And we would stand on this limb and we would jump off in the river. That's where we would do our swimming. And I remember one time we were up there. We had about maybe 6 to 8 guys on this limb, just standing on it, waiting in line to jump off. The limb was about, I'm going to guess, I don't know, circumference would be like a beach ball, in between a beach ball and a basketball. It was massive. It was really big limb. It was basically a tree sticking out of a tree. And we couldn't make this thing hardly move. We couldn't make it whip. That's why we were all standing on it, because we knew we could wait in line and jump off in the river. So when this thing started whipping, I knew that whatever this thing was, with the loudness of the roar, the sound, a massive sound of this thing whipping, and then as soon as it whipped back up and down, it hit the river. And I know everything I'm saying is always loud, and but when this thing hit the river, it sounded like a Volkswagen or a small truck hitting the river. It was unbelievable, like a giant boulder. It was Kawoosh, and it was so. And of course, things echo across the water, and it was pretty quiet except for the frogs and cicadas, what was down there. And it was unbelievable, Will. I mean, I've never heard something that loud roar, or that loud hit the water like that. It was unimaginable. And when it hit the water, we knew, and it's amazing how your mind can think so fast, where you know you're in shock, and in a split second, all these things, the calculations start running crazy. And I knew that this thing was floating downriver. It's to my right, coming downstream, and I knew that because the headlights were still shining on the water yet. And as I'm turning to my left, after I knew it hit the water, I see my girlfriend's dad. He's already in the car. I didn't even hear him get in. He was that fast, and he was white as a ghost. And to give you a little bit of background about this guy, he was a drill instructor for the Rangers there in Fort Benning, and it scared him so bad. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he crapped his pants. I mean, I didn't smell anything, but he was terrified. And my girlfriend was white as a ghost.
Do you think he had any kind of a knowledge about what it might have been?
He never said. To see a look on his face, I mean, I don't think he did. I don't think he had any idea. Or if he did, he wasn't saying anything. Or he may have heard things. I mean, I'm really speculating. He may have heard something, but just never saw it himself. because he was an avid hunter fisherman too. And well, he's back in the car, and the car is still running this whole time. And now we're all sitting there, not talking, looking straight ahead to the lights. And if I were to guess, from where our car was parked, it was about, I think the river width at this point was about maybe 250 feet across. Maybe at the most a football field length. It was pretty wide here. And so we're sitting there not talking, and it's dawning on me, and it didn't dawn on me until later, that why we weren't moving, why he wasn't backing up, why we weren't flying out of there. Well, we're sitting here watching. I think we all had the same mindset. Whatever this thing was, we heard the same thing, is now floating down into the lights. Maybe we can see this thing. Well, we're sitting there. It seemed like forever. The lights are shining maybe halfway. They're shining all the way across. We could see really clear up to about halfway across. And out of the right, this big black mass just comes floating slowly into the headlights, just slowly. And when it gets right in the middle of the headlights, it stops. And to tell you what we saw, if I were to guess, it was probably about 75 to 100 feet out. Mm-hmm. Maybe not quite that far, but it was not quite halfway out into the river, but it was, it was maybe 75 feet. But you've seen how logs look on water. Yeah. You got the top 10 to 15% sitting on top, most of it's below. Well, this thing was sitting out of the water maybe 2 feet. And I could be, exaggerating, but it looked like 2 feet, maybe a foot and a half. And it was about, if I were to guess, maybe 10 feet long, 8 to 10 feet. But it looked huge sticking out of the water, a big portion of it. So, and your rational mind is thinking, my gosh, if this has that much mass outside the water, how big is it underneath the water? So what really scared me the most, besides that, was the fact that it stopped moving. So now, it's going through your mind, this thing has got some kind of intelligence, because now it's backpedaling. It's backpedaling, sitting in the water, because the river's pulling it down. It's backpedaling, sitting there looking at us. I assumed it was. So we're looking at this thing. It's not moving now, and we're not talking. And then all of a sudden, two big huge red eyes just opened up. It just started glaring at us. But they were, when I say huge, I would say maybe, from where we were sitting, tennis ball size. Sure. And I'm guessing when I say that. But they weren't looking at us horizontally. They were looking at us kind of at an angle vertically, like it was like it was on its side swimming, looking at us, facing us to the left and looking at us, but its eyes are kind of, I don't know, does that make sense? They were sideways. Yeah, it does. And as soon as it opened its eyes and looked at us, this guy put this thing in reverse, and gravel was flying, and we got the heck out of there, man. And we were yelling the whole time, what the hell was that? We
That's wild, yeah. Jeez.
It was crazy. It was crazy. Just the sound this thing made, and the roar, and the sound of it hitting the water. And then we saw what we did see. We knew whatever it was absolutely massive. And then as we started going back home, yelling, trying to calm down, it started. When we calmed down, we started talking about, like, oh my gosh, this thing was big. What was it? Blah 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 blah. I said it was a Bigfoot. Had to be. What else could it be? We have no bears down here. We have bobcats and regular, animals, critters, but nothing like that. Right. And plus we're on Fort Benning, and it was the middle of the night, and there's nobody out there but us. We were the only car in this whole area. It was kind of odd, because this place is usually pretty busy with people parking, just hanging out, partying. And it was a Saturday or Sunday night, and there's nobody out there but us, which was a good thing. We really enjoyed that. But
I'm a little bit familiar with Fort Benning. I did a little time there when I was in the Army.
Yes, you're in jump school.
No, actually, a drill instructor.
So then. Okay, all right. You probably heard some things out there in the boonies too, in the back 40, where they're doing all that ranger training. I'm sure. A lot of times when you're involved in training, you don't really pay attention to background noises, because you think it's other troops and things going on. So, and you're pretty focused on what you're doing. Oh, I got you. Yeah, that makes sense. So, we get to his house, and then we're all calmed down, had a beer, just chilled out. Of course, I was underage. But at that night, I needed something. But then he got some courage, or liquid courage, and he decided that he wanted to go back and get his fishing poles, because we left him there. He didn't even bother picking them up. He was so scared. He got in the car straight up. And those meant everything to him. He had a lot of money invested in them, evidently. So, to make his daughter happy and him happy, he said, well, let's go back and get him tomorrow morning. It'll be daylight. There'll be nobody out there. And, we'll be careful. I said, oh, man. I said, okay, all right, I'll do this for you. So we go back out. He comes to get me about 8:30 in the morning. And it had to be a Saturday and Sunday because I wasn't in school. And he comes to get me, and we go right back out there. It's, first thing, a beautiful morning. Sun was coming up, and it was really nice. And instead of going where we went this time, we decided to get his poles and then go up. Because when we got there, on the way, he talked me into going fishing again. Because while we're here, let's go. I'm like, dude. But he said, no, let's just try it. I said, okay, all right, I'll make you happy. And I was looking over my shoulder. I was scared to death. And I think he was too, but he really wanted to fish. So we go down, we get the poles, we pull in, there's nothing there, nobody there either. Poles are still there, we grab the poles, he throws them in, we back out, we go back up to the main road, right by the airport there, make a left, go about maybe 1,000, maybe a quarter miles around the back end of the Austin airfield. And there's a big open area, big open field area, you can park along the side of it. And we did that. And then we walked across this field, maybe about 500 feet, and then back to the river. And then we dropped down on the bank. It's about a 3 or 4 foot drop off the bank. And when it drops down, you drop right into the mud part of the water. You have about 3 feet of a bank and then water. And so they drop right down to the muddy area. But it was fine. But now we're about, from where we were before, we're about, about maybe about 300, 400 feet up from where we were before, upriver. So to our left, about 300 feet down, was where we were parked. 400 feet down, we were parked there. So it was an open area. That group of trees was in between us and where we parked before, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, and to my left is a big open, there's no trees to the right. It's a big, it's upstream about, well, if you look to the right, upstream, you had about another 700, 800 feet of clearing to the right. There's no trees, but open field and all bank. So it was a big open area. It was really nice. So we dropped down on the bank, and he cast the poles out. I'm looking over my shoulder, looking around. I'm just not happy to be there. And we cast out. We're kind of laughing ourselves, kind of like, this is fun, right? And he starts fishing, so we're sitting there. We put our chairs up, and we sit down. And no sooner than we sit down, that same roar, that same yell. It was unbelievable. Same audible. It was like, and again, now I could tell it's coming from upstream from where we were before. So again, I'm in slow motion. My head's looking to the right, upstream, and then trying to see where this thing is coming from, the sound. And I would say upstream from us, about 150 feet, maybe 200 feet upstream, right on the bank. I see this really, and this is what's odd, I see a really bright white object, really white. It was whiter than normal, like a sheet of paper. And it was like, it stood out. It was on the bank, and then as I was looking at it, it looked like it unfolded, and it got taller. And as I thought about it, and as I was thinking about this thing, it looked like it was actually standing up, was kneeling down or sitting down. And it put its arms straight in the air. So it unfolded, and its arms were up. It was just screaming. I could see I couldn't make it out the face at all, but I saw like a big a black spot where I thought the mouth was, I guess. Mm-hmm. And that's where I determined the head was, because I see the arms. And as this thing is still roaring, as it's raising up, my feet are spinning like a cartoon character. I am up that bank, and I am gone across that field. And I was thinking as I was running, I said, it's going to get us and get the old guy behind me. And I felt bad after, but I left him in the dust. But he, this time, I in the back, I see him as I'm running. I could see him grabbing his poles, and he was, and he was scared to death. Yeah, he was not leaving his pole this time, so I figured he wasn't going to come back again. So he was behind me. I mean, by the time I got to the car, I think I had about 100-foot run, distance ahead of him. We got in the car, didn't say anything. I mean, I was yelling. He throws his poles in, gets in the car, and we took off and got the heck out of there. And I never went back to the river after that. That was it.
Wow.
I was done with that part of the river. Yeah, that was my, and that was 2 days apart.
That's pretty incredible. Most people don't actually see the Sasquatch making that roaring noise. Yeah,
and that's what, I've heard listened to some of the shows, and over the last few years, this has been on my mind now since forever. Because once you have an encounter, you're always, I mean, I'm not sure about everybody else, but for me, it's always trying to rationalize. You know, the first time, what the heck did I see? The second time I saw it, both times I heard it, and I had witnesses that did too, and you're always trying to not rationalize it, but you're always trying to determine, keep your sanity. Did I really see this thing? Do I want to see it again to validate what I did see? No, I don't. I know what I saw. There's no
Exactly.
doubt. There's no doubt. So since then, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. I was just going to say I can absolutely sympathize. I know my first sighting, exactly the same thing went through my mind. What the hell is this?
Yeah, it's you just you sit there and you just think about it all the time, and so that was my first two encounters, and that happened, like I said, just back to back, 2 days in a row, and
wow.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. And then once that happens to you, now your whole sense of reality is shifted, is changed, and now when your mom and dad and your grandparents tell you there's no monsters, you know what?
And
they're not lying to you.
They find out there really are.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they're monsters. I'm thinking monsters people, because people can be monsters, but these things are big, black, and hairy, and they're out there in white too.
They fit
and they're real.
Exactly what the boogeyman is.
Exactly, they are real. And my kids, I've got 5 children, and they're all grown now. Well, I got one still home, and unfortunately, over the years, because of my paranoia and my issues with paranoia and safety in the woods, and I got my kids, and they go out in the woods now. They're packing like 10 knives, a couple of the weapons on them, and pistols.
It really changes
they don't play.
it changes your view of what's out there and how you should conduct yourself.
Absolutely. And before that, I never really thought about these creatures. When we were on that tree jumping in the river, I was more worried about the alligator gar in the water biting my feet than I was any kind of hairy hominid or whatever the heck it is out there. And I was worried about that. I wasn't paying attention to my surroundings. Maybe I should have. I was worried about alligator gars and moccasins. I
can tell you, as a kid where I lived out, we had lived out on 40 acres of wilderness with a river running through the property. I never thought about it either. I lived out in the woods, and actually even came face to face with a bear one time, and still wasn't really concerned about being out there. Not until I was 14, and we'd moved just a couple miles away, but still in the same area, and we found footprints. Didn't know what they belonged to until Buddy's dad told us what he thought they were, and then of course 2 years later I actually saw 2 of these things. So then it was a matter of thinking, holy cow, I better really start thinking differently about being out in the woods. And I actually quit really going out by myself in the woods after that. Before then, I hunted alone and spent a lot of time out in the woods alone, and never really thought twice about it. So it really changes your outlook.
Yeah, your whole paradigm shifts. Reality kind of shifts to the left a little bit, or right.
Absolutely.
And then you spend the rest of your life always wondering, looking over your shoulder, and I guess you can never be too cautious.
You're never the same again. Yeah, you're never the same again after that.
And people look at you like you're crazy. Like, I told my dad, well, I'll tell you the next story. But, you tell my parents over the years, and I tell people, and I don't care about what people think about it. I've told a lot of people about my stories and what I've experienced, and you know what? They don't believe me. That's on them. And I get it. It's too frightening to think about, that there could be things out there that, their parents lied to them about, or just didn't know the truth to tell them.
I totally agree.
And they can't deal with it. They can't deal with that kind of reality. And I get that, but that doesn't keep me from sharing my story when people ask. And what's amazing is I share with a buddy of mine. He's a special ops guy. Well, he's retired now. Mm-hmm. But what that did, by taking the chance of talking to him about it, he told me a story he had because I related it, and because he was afraid to tell any of his friends, and he told me what he experienced, and his was just as whack as mine. But yeah, so that was my first two episodes with this thing, and if people wonder about what the Chattahoochee area is like, it's pretty swampy, woodsy. Like I said, the kudzu, viney leaves are everywhere, and people don't realize it. About 3 or 4 miles downstream from there, the Chattahoochee is where they filmed part of the movie Green Berets with John Wayne back, I think, in the 50s when he made that movie. And they had a couple of grass hut scenes, battle scenes down there because it was so swampy. It looked kind of like, I guess, the scenery they were looking for the movie. But yeah, so it's pretty swampy. If you want to have an episode, or you want to have a sighting with a Bigfoot, Chattahoochee area, primarily the Alabama side, because it's even more swampy and woodsy, and it goes down into Lake Eufaula. It's about as wild as it gets. It's crazy down there. But yeah, that's my first two. And then let me talk about my third one.
Absolutely.
Sure.
The floor is yours.
Go ahead.
The floor is yours.
Well, thank you. Well, the third one is when I got a real up and close, like 10 feet away, a visual. I went to school. I went to high school right there on base. They had Spencer High School in Fort Benning, actually right outside the base. I did my first 2 years there, and then my dad, he decided to buy a house across the river in Alabama. And Columbus, Georgia, Fort Benning Fort Benning is part of Columbus, Georgia, and I know you know that. But the Chattahoochee River divides the two states of Alabama and Georgia. So he bought a house on the Alabama side, which is in Phoenix City, Alabama. So my junior year, I went to high school right down in downtown Phoenix City, and then school year, we realized we were wrong school. So we changed schools halfway through that next year. We went down into we went to school down in Chevala High School, which was in Seal, Alabama, Seale. I think it's called Russell County High School now. It's been 30, 40 years. But now I'm across the state. We're about about 20 miles north of Columbus. We're 25 miles north of Fort Benning now, on the other state. And Seal, Alabama, there's about 37 miles out down south from where we live. So if you look at where my first sighting was, you look across the river. If you look across the river about 10 miles, that's about roughly the area of Alabama we were in. Mm-hmm. But now I live 37 miles north of that, 25 miles north of that. And I'm trying to paint a picture, but it's not real easy. But anyway, I went to high school down in Seal, Alabama, and Chevala High School. And the class size there was really small. I think we had a graduating class of 100 people. The reason why I say all this, it sets up to what's coming next. So I went from a big city high school to a really, a nice country school. And so I went there into my junior year and then into my senior year. Well, the prom night, my senior year, another girlfriend, I had plenty of those at the time. My next girlfriend and I went to prom together. And, I drove my own car at this point. I had a 72 Cutlass, candy green apple, beautiful car. I loved it. And again, it's 37 miles out in the middle of the boondocks. I mean, you are in the sticks. So we go to school, went to our prom. Prom was kind of boring that night. We left about midnight to come home. And just to tell you how big this town of Seal, Alabama is, they have one blinking red light. That's it. That's all. Nothing else. And a courthouse that's been abandoned. It's a historical building now. You got the high school, which wasn't that big, and the elementary school. I mean, a ton of maybe 5 buildings, and then it's all rural from that point on. So we leave school about midnight, and we head north on, I think it's called Highway 80 back then. Now it's all built up. They have a freeway that goes through there. But we're on Old Highway 80. So we're going north, and, we're tired because it's been a long day. The party's over, and it's kind of boring. We weren't drinking. We weren't smoking anything wacky, and so totally sober, just tired. So we start heading out. Oh, and she had a bright pink prom dress on, all frilly, and I had a white tuxedo on with tails and a pink ruffled shirt. That's that's also part of this. So yeah, we were stars, man. I mean, we looked good. So we got in our car and we're heading north, and it's pretty rural. You get a house maybe every 300 or 400 feet to the right, maybe, and then you may not see a house for a mile or two. But so we leave the town. We're about maybe 2 miles outside of town, and it starts getting a little bit more rural. Less houses on the road, and we come to this flat area, and it's really bright sky. It's beautiful outside at night, and I love the stars. I'm always noticing how pretty the night sky is. So we hit this flat area, and then the flat area goes about 2 miles straight north, and then at the end, it kind of dips up. It goes up a little bit of hill and goes over. And I know all this. I see it as I'm driving. I see it every day almost. So we're driving, and down about a mile down this flat 2 mile road, about a mile down on the right-hand side, maybe a mile and a half, there's only one caution sign. It's a slippery when wet sign. I think it's what it was. It's one of those yellow diamonds.
Yeah.
And those yellow diamonds are about 3 feet. You know what I'm talking about, regular road sign. And so we're driving. We hit this flat area, and my lights are shining, and we're not talking. We're just kind of starting to get, road hypnosis, just tired. And we're both looking forward. Well, we see something. So the only thing that's in our visual at this point is my headlights and this one sign, this yield sign way down there. And you can see it reflecting way down. And as we're driving toward it, I'm doing about 50 miles an hour, maybe 55. Something that the yield sign kind of winks out for a second, and then it winks back on, and it winks out a couple of times. So naturally, my eyes are drawn to that because it's reflecting. And I'm thinking, why is that sign winking at us? I know it's a sign. I've seen it many times. So now we're both looking at it. She isn't. I don't know if she's doing it, but later she told me. So we're still not talking. We're getting closer, and we're getting about a half a mile away, and this sign keeps winking like on and off. And I'm thinking, okay, what's going on with this? Is something over there? Something by that sign? I'm thinking something's moving by it now. I mean, what else could it be? So we're driving. I'm still doing about the same speed limit, but as we get closer, I'm maybe about a quarter mile away. I start slowing down because I want, now I'm curious. What is this? So we get slow. We get slower and closer, and I'm going slower. And now, as we get closer to it, I'm thinking we're about 100 feet away, maybe, and I'm doing about 25 at this point, just coasting. I'm slowing down, and now I kind of see something shimmering next to it, and she sees it too, and I'm going even slower, and I'm getting maybe 50 feet away from it, 40 feet, 30 feet, and as I'm coming almost to a complete stop. Actually, I did come to a complete stop, I believe. I may have been doing 1 mile an hour. I don't know. It was almost that point, and I come right up next to it, and as I'm getting closer, my eyes are just getting unbelievably large, and my mouth is wide open. Standing right next to this sign, we're actually leaning against her on it, was this gigantic human being. Well, not human, covered with hair, put it that way. Mm-hmm. And I knew it's hard to it's unbelievable. I actually kind of marveled at it for a second because I've never seen a creature or a human so ripped up in my life with muscle. Just think of the muscle, Arnold Schwarzenegger on the cover of the Muscle Mag, but add 2 to him in height and make it about 5 to 6 feet in width. This thing was magnificently cut and muscular, and just a beautiful example of a male body, mm-hmm. but massive, a monster. But the headlights, and it was covered with black hair, but the headlights shone right through it, so the skin was kind of grayish white mm-hmm. through the hair, and unbelievably large. It was so big, Will, that how those yield signs, those diamond yellow signs, they're about 2 feet, 2.5 feet wide, maybe,
right,
and about 3 feet, 2.5 feet height. Take this sign. And actually, this is how I can best describe how big this thing was. I'm trying to paint a picture. Take a sheet of 8.5 by 11 paper, fold it up to make it a perfect square, and then turn it on its side and make a diamond out of it, and put it up to your chest. Okay, put that sheet of paper to your chest. That's how big this sign looked to this creature. It was massive. It was on. I just can't. That's why we were in shock, of course, seeing this thing. We're both. I could see the back of her head. She was staring, like her neck, ostrich neck, just sticking straight out, looking at it. I'm looking to my right. She's closer than I am to it. We're like right next to the sign, looking at it, and all I saw was just muscle. And I think the yield sign was up to. Let's see if the thing was facing me, we're facing it. The yield sign was to the right. Just the top of the sign was just over where I think the nipple was of this thing's chest. And the sign was not as big as this thing's chest. Or maybe close, but not quite.
Yeah.
That's how big this thing was. And it's standing there. It was just standing like a human. It looked like a human, but covered with hair and unbelievably huge. And so I'm kind of stopped and then I'm kind of rolling past it. We're just staring at this thing, and it had its left arm down to its side. I could see its fingers, it was just, they were huge. And the right-hand side, I think its right arm was up over its head, or it was behind its back, or it was up where my lights couldn't see it, most of it. Because, again, it's only the lights at this point, only the right headlight was kind of shining in that direction. The left one was off to the left, in the center of the road. Mm-hmm. But the irony is I could not see its head. It was so tall that my headlights, now I'm sure that the headlights saw it as they were approaching, but I didn't see the head. I never saw the face. All I saw was the top of the chest, maybe to the base of the neck and down. And that's all I could see. Now, and to this day, I don't think my girlfriend at the time saw it. We're still friends. She's more of a family friend now. Mm-hmm. But she never talked about the head either, so I don't think she really saw it, or I never really asked her about it. But anyway, so we're at a complete stop, maybe doing 1 mile an hour, and we're kind of rolling past, and I kind of roll past it as we're looking over. I'm looking to my right, she's looking to her right, and right when we got past this sign, I hit my brake lights, and I came to a complete stop at that point, and I looked at my rearview mirror because I wanted to see this thing again behind me, and because my lights were shining, were pretty bright, and I could see the sign, but the creature was gone at this point. Either it ducked down, moved to the left, I don't know. But that's when I said, "It's gone!" I yelled. The first one that said anything was me, and I said, "It's going to get us!" So I hit my gas. I hit the gas pedal, floored it, and we started speeding out there. We started flying, and as I'm moving away, I'm thinking, "It's a bear! It's a bear!" And I know darn well it wasn't a bear. It was a massive human being, right. And she was screaming at me. I was screaming at her. "Did you see that thing? What the hell was that?" We were yelling at each other, and I was trying to drive. Let's get the hell out of here! And I'm driving. I'm flooring it. I said, if this thing is a bear, it can chase us. I do. Again, I know it wasn't a bear.
Right.
But, rational mind was trying to kick in. So I'm flooring it. We're flying down this road. I'm doing 70, maybe 75 at this point. And about a mile down the road, this is where you start thinking scary movie. About a mile down the road, my left rear tire blows. Boom!
Oh, no.
Scared the bejeebies out of me. And and she was screaming. I'm screaming now. And we're still thinking this thing's going to get us. And what timing it is for my left rear tire to blow. So I wasn't stopping. I slowed down, of course. I said, "I'm not stopping. I'm not stopping." I was yelling, and she was crying, and we're still moving. And I'm doing about 35 at this point. My tire's flopping, making the tires make that noise. And then I said, "I'm not stopping until we come to the first house with lights on it." Well, now we're pretty rural. And so we drove another 7 miles, approximately, before we came to the first house on the right-hand side. And by this time, my tire was all but gone, and I could see sparks coming out of the back of my rearview mirror. I could see the sparks flying out, not steady, but streams of them here and there. So I knew I was ruining my wheel at this point too, but I didn't care. I said, "This thing is not going to get us." So we come up to this one house with lights, and we pull into the driveway, and just so people realize how set the scene a little bit, how poor people are in this area. The house we pulled up into, it had light coming through the walls. That's so there was cracks in the walls, and they were filled in with putty and duct tape and plastic sheets, and pretty poor people. And all the houses, the majority were sitting on cylinder blocks. Mm-hmm. So, but the wild thing was we pulled in, and we went down a little driveway downhill into this guy's yard, and they were having a party, and we get out and we're freaking out. I said, "We saw Bigfoot. We saw Bigfoot." We were yelling, and we forgot we had our prom outfits on, and someone said, "Hey, the country western singers are here," and so it made us laugh a little bit. We kind of lightened the mood, and they were having a hootenanny. They had moonshine, no kidding, and I knew a couple of the people there, and they were high school friends of ours. So Terry, Melanie, hey, come on over, have some drink, and then poured some shine, and we had a little bit. We were freaking out, we were shaking. And all we wanted to do was call our parents and say, "Get us out of here." So I was able to use their phone. They just have a phone. And I went and called my dad and my uncle. They came out. They drove out. It was about a 35-minute drive. And they said, "Well, just sit tight. You'll be okay. We'll be there in a few minutes." And we were still just shaking up pretty bad. And while we were sitting there talking to them, our friends and people that lived there, they were telling us, "Oh, hey, that ain't nothing. Out here, we've heard all kinds of screams and found critters with their heads bitten off and cut off, we think we found a dead body one time about 10 years prior. The police never talked about it, and they're telling us all these stories. And I'm thinking, why is this not in the news? Because they just kept it to themselves. And my dad gets there after we had a couple of drinky poos, and he didn't say anything. He was just laughing at us. I'd say, "Hey, Bob, we saw a Bigfoot. We saw a Bigfoot." And Melanie, my girlfriend at the time, was screaming, "George, you saw a Bigfoot." He was laughing. "You didn't see no damn Bigfoot. You saw a bear." I said, "There's no bear." Anyway, he was laughing. He didn't want to believe us. So we put the spare tire on, and at this point, I only had a little bit of shine. And I drove. I drove her home, and we stopped, got some breakfast, and we were sitting there just talking about this, and we were shook, shaking up pretty bad. And went home, and I went home, and that point on, my whole paradigm on life and the supernatural, or not supernatural, but who knows, of what really is reality, it was shifted completely, and it's changed my life, I think, for the better. Some people say it's for the worse, but because you actually saw this, you experienced it. But no, this is let me know reality of what really is out there. There are things that people just are not aware of because most people are cityfied. They don't know. And you go out in the woods, you spend enough time out, you're going to see something. You're going to experience something. And so that's my third encounter.
Yeah, I think sometimes it is probably better to know than to not know and be in a bad situation you could have prevented.
Absolutely. I would rather have this take us to my grave and deal with the stress of knowing it, and people, yucking it up at your expense, and let my family know that, hey, you know what? You may not believe me, but do me a favor. Carry a big knife. Carry a big pistol with you. Carry a big round. As a matter of fact, right before you called, I got a new toy. I got a new 308 rifle, and my boys and I were out here at the house shooting it. So that's why I was a few minutes behind getting back to you. Sorry.
Oh, no problem. I'll tell you what. When people like you or myself talk where other people can hear it, it really helps them. Because a lot of people, I can't tell you, I've talked to countless numbers of people over my 45 years dealing with this, and so many. And even if they just told me in private, which many have, not wanting information out because of profession or what have you.
Sure.
It's sort of put it in proper perspective for them. They were able to move on beyond that, kind of getting it off their chest,
It's not just them. It's more people have seen this. And, go ahead. Oh, and just people know my background a little bit. I'll just offer it up. Right now I live in West Michigan. I got a place here in north of Grand Rapids. Just it's about 50 miles before the North Woods start. And I have 10 acres with a swampy pond in the back of my property here, so we can shoot. And I had a couple weapons back when I was younger, but when I moved out here, I like rural. I wanted to be out of the city. I left San Diego after 35 years. I retired from the Navy. I was an administrative officer after 20 years roughly. Mm-hmm. I was able to retire early. The Navy offered the early out retirement back in the 90s, the Terra program they called it. So I jumped on that and retired early. And so I retired from the Navy, went to the civilian sector in San Diego, and bought a home, was cityfied pretty well. And then I was a government contractor for Raytheon for many years in SAIC. And I was an IT director for about 10 years. And I ran about 25% of the Navy's information management structure. So, and I'm educated. I got my bachelor's degree. Not that you have to have those kind of credentials and background, but I'm not. I don't throw this around, and I don't just talk about it because I'm not dumb, but that way.
I'll tell you something. You mentioned living in Michigan. I actually have a very, very good quality photograph of a Sasquatch from Michigan.
Oh, wow.
That nobody's really seen except a few people close to me, and it's going to be in my next book. So
awesome.
It's a broad daylight photograph. From the rear, the creature actually appears to be running away, but it's very clear, very detailed. So that'll be interesting. I'll have to send you a copy of the book when it's published.
Well, I've got your other books. I bought those about 2 or 3 years ago.
Oh, and thank you very much.
Oh, hey, you know what? You've taught me a lot too. Like I said, once you get a kindred spirit, once you become a knower instead of just a believer, you want to eat up as much knowledge as you possibly can, And I've had none of that affect my, and, you know, none of it's affected my view of my knowledge of what I saw. I know what I saw and experienced, and there's no doubt in my mind. And I'll take it to my grave, and that these things are out there, and people need to watch out and be careful and know what you're getting yourself into.
Absolutely, yeah. You know, it's a wild creature, and I think you have to have a healthy respect for wildlife of any kind. I mean, because you don't know, and we have so many accounts of them being, you know, more on the violent side. So it is something people should be aware of and be wary of.
Yes, you're right. You know, a buddy of mine, he's got last weekend we went up. It's deer hunting season out here right now, and we went up to. He's got a cabin up near we're way up almost by the lake, Huron, I think it is, and he's got 80 acres of view of the wilderness up there, and it was unnerving for me. I haven't been out in that kind of quiet in many, many, many years. I live pretty rural. I've got 10 acres here with, you know, I'm outside of a little town. It's quiet, but where I was, I couldn't sleep all night. It was so quiet, you couldn't hear anything. It was unbelievable. Yeah. And we went out in the woods. We spent the whole day out in the woods in the hung blinds and up in the tree stands, and it was phenomenal. I loved it. But it really brought home to me, like, oh my gosh, we are so, if someone grabs me out here, or my kid, or my wife who was with us, we would never be found again. It is so remote that, and that's why I was glad I was packing and had plenty of weapons on me, because
it kind of brings it to home, doesn't it?
It does. And these hunters that don't know this, they're out there taking this. They don't know. They don't even know not to know what's really out there. That they should be careful and carry a good high-powered sidearm with them as they're out there hunting, even when they're bow hunting, especially when they're bow hunting.
Absolutely.
It just brought things more in perspective, and you get appreciation for what's out there, and healthy respect. So, yeah, I'm with you. I can't wait to see your book and read your. I mean, see your picture and read your book. Looking forward to it.
Actually, I've got a couple of pictures, but I'll share that with you privately.
Sure.
Some very interesting things. But any final thoughts before we wrap up?
No, I just what I will say is this: I kind of hem and haw about. I've never shared this with anybody on YouTube or any kind of interview, and I hemmed and hawed about it for many years. Matter of fact, I put my link on the BFRO website back in the year 2000, because I had to tell somebody. I had to let somebody know. I was driving my wife crazy. She goes, "You need to go online and find something and post this or get it out there." And that's before the show, the Bigfoot. What's that show called? They had. Is it still out? The Bigfoot research people.
Oh, the Finding Bigfoot, or as it's called, Not Finding Bigfoot.
Yeah, more like the second. The latter of the two.
You're right.
That's before the show came out. So, but I had to put it out there. I had to get it off my chest. Let somebody know that, hey, even if somebody reads it for entertainment purposes, at least they've got that in their head. Be careful. Just be.
It's
what
very
I can say is carry something.
Right. I agree.
Go ahead, son.
I agree. No, I'm
I
just
tell my
going
kids,
to say,
like I said, you pack.
Yeah, exactly. And it is very important, I think, for witnesses to get it off their chest. I mean, and to put information out for other people is, for both those who have seen one or have not, because for other people who have seen them and just like you, who have gone for years without telling the information that they have, what they experienced, there are many, many, many other people who will hear you say that and say, "That's me."
Yeah.
And it helps them. It will help them. Yeah, it will definitely help them.
Well, I'm glad. Because I would tell you this. This is one thing I'll leave. That if anybody's experienced this, please talk to somebody about it, because it's affected my mental health. Not in a bad way, in respect, but you're always carrying that burden with you of not knowing, people not believing you. So when people start listening to you and people do believe you, when you start getting around like-minded members like yourself, Will, and others do the same thing, it's a kind of therapy, in that you're able to relate, and you have someone to talk to, and it means a whole lot to me.
I think it kind of creates an internal stress that you don't have a release for.
That's a good way of looking at it. Absolutely. Like a balloon releasing some of its air, a lot of it.
Exactly. And once you get rid of that, and talk to somebody who's had a similar experience, or it sort of allows you to move forward from that spot, because you're kind of stuck in that place. You don't know what to do with it, and you just kind of stay there. Like you said, trying to figure it out. You're always trying to think about, you're trying to put it in your frame of reference, and there isn't a frame of reference.
No, there isn't. It's your frame of reference comes from everybody else's sightings and their knowledge, and you start building this scenario of knowledge base of what to do, what not to do, and you can see where you fit in there. And
exactly.
I tell you what, your show and your books have helped me considerably. It's been it's a big relief to get this off my chest, and it's a big heavy weight lifted, and I thank you for that. I really mean that from the bottom of my heart.
Well, I certainly appreciate that, and I really appreciate you telling me what you experienced, and for other folks to be able to hear that.
Yeah, well, you're very welcome, and like I said, if it can help anybody, please take this, and you might be listening for entertainment purposes, people, but just put in the back of your mind then, pack something with you, be prepared just in case.
Be ready. Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Well, listen, Terry, thank you very much. I certainly appreciate it, and I will send you a copy of this episode, and we'll keep you in the loop.
Well, thanks a lot, Will. Hey, and you know what? Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. I know your time is valuable. And hey, happy Thanksgiving and Merry Christmas to you, okay?
And the same to you, my friend.
Thank you. Really appreciate it. Have a good one.
All right. You have a good one, too.
Okay. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone, for joining me this week. Be sure to tune in again next week as we explore another account from a witness of the unknown.